It comes up, it goes north of the power lines at River Road at 53, and then we continue that north of the power lines until the edge of Medeoin where the Glacier Trail is, and that's when we jump to another power line.
Will the roadway, sorry about this, will the roadway through Wilmington be elevated from Route 53 to I-55? Are there going to be any sound barriers or landscaping?
And that's something that we need to continue on through Tier 2. And so in Tier 2 is when we do the field investigations, we determine where that 400 foot is. Right now we have a 2,000 foot working corridor, or 2,000 foot corridor with a 400 foot working alignment. We have no detailed studies of the bridge type studies. For example, we're going to have to go pretty high across the Kankakee River. Where we tie it down, we don't know exactly at that point. We also have to raise it above for 53. So we do not know the profiles. We do not have a cross-section. We do not have profiles. Right now, we were looking at a 950 square mile area and trying to just whittle it down to a corridor that, again, maximizes the travel while minimizing the impacts. And so we just got to this stage, except in Tier 2 is when we do the detailed geometry. And then once I know where that edge line is, then I can do noise studies and look at noise impacts for that. So that is in Tier 2. And that's another 18 to 24 months after I finish Tier 1 with the same public involvement, 3 public meetings and a public hearing.
Steve, you talked about sound, or the last question was about sound. These next 3 are similar in nature, so I'll read all 3 of them. My house is 300 feet from the corridor. What will be done about sound? What kind of soundproofing will be set up for families that are just outside of the boundary lines? Let's leave it at that right now.
And yeah, unfortunately right now I don't know where that working alignment is. I don't know if it's 300 feet. I don't know if it's 1,600 feet away from your house. So I don't know at this point in time what that alignment is, so I do not know the noise impacts.
Along the lines of environmental noise, how is noise, air, and light pollution being addressed? It's another same one.
Yes, noise, air, and light pollution is being addressed in the draft EIS. We are addressing that on the corridor wide with the 400 foot working alignment, and then in more detail in Tier 2. So we have a conceptual impacts identified within Tier 1, and in Tier 2 is when we actually know, for example, the air impacts, some of the programs that they have to model the air impacts, you have to know where that edge line is. And we don't know where that edge line of where that road is right now, and we won't probably for another 18 to 24 months. At that point, we will know where all those impacts are.
I'd like to make a point that sometime late this, or in the middle of the summer, the way it's looking, we will have what's called a draft environmental impact statement that will address all the areas of environmental concern like air quality, noise, and in a Tier 1 study it's done at a very general level, as you might imagine, and then as Steve said, once we get into Tier 2, those descriptions, and the Tier 2 will also have a environmental impact statement, and there will be much more detail in the types of impacts and what mitigations and so forth.
In regards to flood control, drainage, field ties, will they be broken when the power towers come through? We cannot tolerate another flood. So in regards to how you handle the flood control and drainage and field ties.
Yeah, and that is something that we're going to have to continue to work with. We continue to work with the county in trying to understand where those field tiles are. I think we're going to continue through Tier 2 to understand where those field tiles are. The actual detailed drainage study doesn't happen until Tier 2. So when we looked at the impacts, we looked at impacts in floodplains a larger scale in Tier 1, and then in Tier 2, when you do the bridge type studies, then you can determine how much fill you're actually putting in a floodplain. And then what do? Well, then you have to mitigate for it in some aspects, so you have to do comp storage. That doesn't happen until Tier 2, when we do the detailed drainage studies.
And how about endangered species? What effect would this project have on local endangered species? The great American yellow hammer. And then what are the protected negative impacts to Wilmington, Simerton, and Peatone?
So protected and endangered species has come up a couple times tonight. Right now, and I think Rick can tell, do you know the source of where we got the threatened and endangered species? It was under...
There's available data, the geographical information systems, like all the resource agencies put all that in pilot, and we actually have multiple sources. Yeah, we all actually have multiple sources for the information, from the state agencies and the counties and everything, and we enumerate all those things along each one of the corridors that we study and tabulate them.
So where we got a lot of the data is from Fish and Wildlife Services, a lot from Illinois DNR, IDNR, and where these endangered species are. And so we looked and we imported them in the GIS. So that's one of the reasons why A2 up there, if you look real closely, it does this like 90-degree bend in Indiana, is because it's protecting a species. So we couldn't go straight, we had to go in a 90-degree bend. So there is reasons why there's kinks in the line because of those threatened endangered species, and we looked at a number of options to avoid those threatened endangered species. Now in Tier 2 is when we do the botanical surveys, we do the field surveys, and we look to make sure that we are protecting those endangered species. That is a federal regulation.
In regards to truck traffic, how can truck traffic become less with an intermodal in Elwood and another on Lairway, Route 53, will continue to be a problem?
Well, with the question, if I understand it, is just looking at, well, the intermodals will always and will be there. They're operating today, and they will always continue to be a problem in this person's observation as far as truck traffic in the area, and I think they will continue just to keep looking at trucks and taking trucks through the area. That will continue to happen, and the expressway will help alleviate that. Even looking at the B3 corridor, for example, the B3 corridor out of all corridor did have really high truck performance on it. So we had higher truck performance on the B3 corridor, for example, than some of the other corridors. So when you look at it, you kind of pull regional traffic in that B3 corridor, which lessens the roads on the northern corridor. So the trucks hopefully will be more attracted to backfilling in I-80. Whatever we take away from I-80, it'll be backfilled because it's already over capacity today.
In regards to trucking companies, how much power are the trucking companies going to be given on the process/route?
The route itself has been thought of, created through a number of stakeholder events. It's all stakeholders. The truck company, along with Wilmington, along with everybody here tonight, has the same voice. And so we're going to take your comments tonight. A lot of the comments and a lot of the corridors that you saw and that you see out there were developed after public meetings. After somebody here said, why didn't you just go this way? It looked like a good idea, so then we started drawing it out. And that's how it all got developed. The B3 corridor was a collaboration effort of everybody.
In regards to